All right, so this panel is about AI and security. This is an AI conference. We're on the security stage, but I want to talk about that a little more. So this panel is kind of at the intersection of what is arguably the most overhyped part of tech right now, AI, and what is, I think, always the most underhyped area of tech, regardless of what's happening, security. And when you listen in on this panel, I want you to focus on one thing. Look at how AI is helping beef up security systems as well as tear them down. So AI is kind of like a double-edged sword when it comes to privacy, data protection, and compliance. But don't take it from me. Please take it from our esteemed panelists to my right. So please introduce yourselves and tell the audience what your company does, starting with you, Howie.
Howie Xu. I'm the Chief AI and Innovation Officer at Gen. If you never heard about Gen is actually the company that owns the brand like Norton, Avast, and so on, a few other, LifeLock, a few other products.
Great. I'm Ann Irvine. I'm the Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Resilience. Resilience is a cyber risk management platform company. To include, we sell cyber insurance policies to enterprises.
And Lane Bess, I'm the CEO of Deep Instinct. We use deep neural network, deep learning to prevent threats that might impact data and data security.
Perfect. So very different areas, but definitely related. Let's start with privacy. How have you seen AI impact privacy in terms of customers as well as employees?
I can start very quickly. The AI, as you know, at the opening, people said, well, only 39% people trust the AI. Part of the reason is actually people are not sure whether there's a privacy, right? Because if I send something to whether ChatGPT or any those kind of the AI, generative AI tools, it's not clear to me what's being retained, what's going to be used or not. So a lot of people are apprehensive about it, right? So I think privacy plays a very big role here. On the other hand, if you give people the sense of the peace, hey, I do have the privacy. I think this is actually going to get innovation going more. Part of the reason is we all know generative AI, you need a lot of data, right? Can you actually get the data, protect the privacy, and then use a lot of them? I think that's in some ways a research topic, right? It's not a solve the problem, but that's an interesting problem. So I want to say privacy in some ways in the way for people to trust AI more, but I think it's a very worthy problem. If we solve that problem, it's going to be, speed up the AI innovation.
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit from the enterprise's perspective, not consumers, but one thing we've seen in enterprises adopting some of these technologies is them sort of ignoring the privacy-related risks that their business may take on and sort of decide to adopt technologies and that the risk of violating their own customers' privacy is sort of worth it. One example of this is the website tracker, like the Pixel website tracker technologies. Companies, that we've talked to and we've engaged with have, in some instances, decided to take the risk. We're going to embed these trackers in our website, knowing that this would violate some privacy regulations that we're bound to. But the opportunity is worth that risk to us. So, from the enterprise perspective, I think we haven't always incentivized companies and sort of educated them to sort of help them make consumer protecting decisions when it comes to privacy risk.
Yeah. I would probably add on to what Ann said. Again, I'm going to be a little bit provocative throughout this half an hour because I've been involved in cybersecurity for the better part of 25 years. And if you think about privacy, I can go back 20 years ago when DLP, data leakage prevention, and so many of the privacy focus in the cyber sector started to come into effect, right? So if you take a look at it from a cyber perspective, privacy has been thrown out the door here with AI. And again, it supports a lot of what Ann said. you don't have a lot of people focusing, and I'm speaking enterprises, governments. You don't have a lot of people focused on taking a lot of the policies around privacy that they'd spent the better part of 2 decades worrying about, honing, getting technologies in place to protect and provide better privacy, and transitioning them into the AI space right now. This is going to have to happen. And throughout my conversation, I'll note that there's probably tremendous opportunity for some innovation and new companies to arise to address some of these issues.
Definitely. So I want to actually, for the next question, I want to focus in on balancing innovation versus privacy and how companies can strike a balance. And also, if you could talk a little bit about which industries is AI impacting more in terms of privacy and which industries are maybe a little bit less impacted, right? For example, healthcare comes to mind. Our privacy matters a lot more there than maybe some, typical SaaS industry. But I would love to hear it from you guys, what you're seeing.
I'll start off there.
Sure.
You did mention one of the big ones, healthcare, but you see it across all of the verticals, and I'd point to retail, right? For example, a lot of retailers are offering AI as a better way to help you shop, better way to service your business, and you're providing information into those businesses and infrastructures that, quite honestly, are being used to advantage of the business versus really thinking about your privacy. And again, I think a lot of people have driven toward the, across all verticals, have driven towards the efficiencies that they can get with AI. And there really has not been a focus on the privacy aspect. So retail, healthcare, manufacturing, we see it as well. And I mean, you could go down and there's an impact in each of these. You see a lot of it as well in terms of the efficiency within business, whether it's customer support or sales tools. You're feeding into a lot of AI in these situations where that data is just out there.
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit about innovation and to an audience coming from the technology sector, it's sort of obvious that we, as tech industry folks, we should be looking at these new technologies and deciding how they can help our businesses grow and what opportunities may be available. And for example, in manufacturing, I think there's and perhaps with a less mature security organization at that manufacturer, there can be a tendency to say, no, we don't have the security to protect this new technology. We're not going to deploy it. That's not for us. We're not ready for that. We don't have the budget for it. No. But of course, people, individuals are going to use this technology in their day-to-day life, and that's the fastest way to lose control over, making sure that these AI systems that employees are using are secure. So I think, security teams have an opportunity. Trying to tie it back to your question, security teams have an opportunity to really enable innovation by adding to the guardrails of their employees and what their employees are doing, and making sure it's seen as a growth opportunity for employees. Learn how to do this in the right way, but enabling that innovation is also, I think, the best way to enable security on those technologies that are adopted, especially again in maybe non-tech fields that are a little more. Not early adopters, not natural early adopters of some of this technology.
So a lot of land and focused on is the enterprise. So since at Gen Digital we are kind of more dealing with the consumer side of the thing. We are empowering the consumers' digital freedom. So I just comment on the consumer side. I would say privacy is just like you said at the beginning, it's a two-edged sword. On the one hand, it's probably more scary than most people realize. Yes, healthcare, those kind of the industries arguably has more privacy requirement. But guess what, right? In every industries, you never know how AI is going to be used, or how the privacy breach or the leaking of your privacy is going to be handled. For instance, right, a few years ago, just in the talk early this morning, this Ashley Madison thing, there were people died, right? People who sort of suicided because of the data leakage. And then with AI, who knows, right? Whatever the data I leaked out, how the bad guys or good or bad guys are going to utilize my data, who knows? So I think it is a very serious issue. We should pay more and more attention on it. On the other hand, I would also argue that privacy doesn't mean innovation has to slow down. As an example, right, for machine learning, AI, there is a way to train the model with newer technology, such as a federated learning, so that you can potentially train the model without sharing certain part of the data. There are other things you can do. So I would say privacy is a big deal, but that doesn't mean, just because of the privacy, everything has to, just to slow down, including innovation.
Yeah, I'd like to just add something here. When you find a new technology, a new revolution, as people will say, the early advantage goes to the opportunists. So, for example, in cyber, the opportunists are the people that are using AI to create, they can use DeepSeek and other tools to create attacks well ahead of the cyber team's ability to react to them. They're the opportunists. The companies that deploy AI to improve their performance as a company, they're somewhat being opportunistic. They're taking that advantage, but yet they haven't really thought through or provided for their customers some of the issues around privacy. It's an interesting thing. I think we're going to talk a little bit about compliance as well. When you talk about compliance here, governments, enterprises, they've spent, again, decades figuring out how to make compliance policies. These compliance policies are in no way being tested up against the use of AI. So what you're going to have, and I think this is a real great opportunity space. In fact, there's a company called Verific that I've been looking at as an investor on that one, that are actually finding ways to test how well companies such as Anthropic, OpenAI are actually matching up against the compliance policies of enterprises and governments. There's going to be a need to test that. Otherwise, we're going to have a bit of a compliance problem across the board.
I'll jump in on the compliance point. Where Emil's talking about what's overhyped and underhyped, and I think in the GRC space, the most underhyped part of GRC is risk, in my perspective. And I think it's easy again for less mature cybersecurity teams to really focus on compliance. But as Lane said, a lot of those compliance guidelines are just not keeping up with the latest technologies and the latest risks that those are bringing up for enterprises. And it's really important for security leaders to really embrace the idea of thinking about what they're doing from a risk perspective and from a dollars and cents perspective, and understanding they can never prevent all attacks 100%, but sort of understanding what the impact to their business will be when different types of incidents occur, not if, but when they do, and really thinking through, the likelihood of different incidents and the dollars and cents impact of those.
So since you brought up compliance, let's just jump to the compliance part. I'm curious, how can companies, in your estimation, keep up with the evolving compliance requirements in this AI era?
I'll lead off on that. Again, I referred to one example, a company called Verific. AI is going to be a tool that's going to help test compliance as well. There's not necessarily been enough energy and focus on that at this point. So I think we'll see an emerging set of companies that are going to take the AI modeling and test compliance within the enterprise. That's the only way it's going to happen. Other than that, you're going to find yourself in a situation where a lot of the companies are going to just simply have to do a lot of manual testing of their policies against the various AI models they're using. That's one way to solve it, but that's an example. If you take a look at, a lot of companies are implementing AI to save money and get efficiencies, but other parts of their business, they're going to have to use their own energy and resources to figure out whether those AI tools are working well for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think anything that helps turn compliance from just a checkbox exercise into a meaningful exercise of what is actually being protected, against what privacy regulations is a great step forward. It's for far too many enterprises. It's just a checkbox exercise that's not really evaluating the core of the risk that the compliance frameworks are supposed to encapsulate.
Yeah, I think the compliance. I just leverage your double-edged sword thing throughout my conversation here, in the sense that it could do a lot of good things. It could do the bad things, because throughout the conference, you probably already get the idea that we're in the age of using AI to fight AI, right? Because AI can be used by the bad guys. If we can have too much compliance or too much of the things, guess what? Bad guys is not going to be in compliance. So how can you deal with this, right? So we need to be very careful about compliance for the sake of it, or too much compliance, which slow down the good guys, and then the not slowing down the bad guys. That's on the one hand. But on the other hand, as we all said, today the biggest issue with AI or large, faster AI deployment is the trust. So with the compliance, right, people will have the peace of mind. It will speed up the deployment. So on the one hand, I'm looking forward to more compliance, maybe leveraging some technology, leveraging AI to do more compliance. But on the other hand, I'm also very cautious about what compliance coming to whether me or the big model guys or all the application guys. We need to be extra careful about it.
Definitely. I'm curious if you have any recommendations. There's a lot of leaders in the audience. How can they build cross-functional teams for compliance, or does it make sense to just have a compliance team? How are you guys thinking about that, and what are you seeing that's actually effective at your respective companies or for your clients?
Yeah, I'll start. We can work down the line again here. And again, I'll take the example from the cyber industry and the cyber practitioners, the SOC, the red teams that are addressing this. There's been a lot of thought that AI is going to help them significantly, but what they have found that they've got to actually add a lot more resource and knowledge and skill set around AI that understand both the AI tools and how they apply to the organization. So there are some significant savings opportunities, but there's a whole industry and skill set that's now going to have to be invested in, that's going to bring the right people, the right talent to be able to map these things. And when you talk about these cross-functional teams, I think you're going to have a series of vertical skill sets within the organization. Obviously, in your AI efficiency, in your cyber, and then you're going to have these, what I'd call horizontal functions that are going to cross along them. Some of those are going to be policy compliance, efficacy of how these tools are being used. So I think cross-functional teams with very vertical focus is going to be one of the ways that companies address it. But the investment in the talent and the cost to do so, everybody thinks that it's all going to be a pure savings. In fact, a lot of cyber buyers, the CISOs in organizations saying, well, how much technology is AI going to take out from me? How much am I going to save? What vendors can I pull out using AI now? Well, you'll be able to pull out and consolidate some, but you're also going to have to invest as well on the skill sets, on the tools with AI that you're going to be using. So it's not clear yet that it's all efficiency or what the full equation will be, but building the right teams, cross-functional teams to get the economies will be one way to do it.
Yeah, I'll build on that a little bit. I think from the security team's perspective, it's really important that business leaders and boards start really demanding that CISOs step up and think more cross-functionally, that sort of aren't focused on just protecting the castle 100% from all types of attacks and 100% secure of these glass walls. But sort of demanding that they think about how to say yes to new technologies, not again the sort of no default that is often comes from security leaders, but really coaching them on understand the opportunity cost to the business and not making some of these investments. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I just want to add one more point to that too. There's a lot of the platformization focus in security. I'm speaking specifically in security. And again, my last two companies, Palo Alto Networks and Zscaler, are these platform companies. But there's a lot of hand waving going on. And I'm going to say this not necessarily in a derogatory way towards those companies, but they want you to believe by building the platformization approach that you'll be able to leverage AI in the most effective way for your security. I don't necessarily think that's true. So I think the security practitioners are going to have to look at the convenience of the platformization in security with AI and understand whether or not that's actually solving the problem that they need to solve.
So I'll be much more critical of the security industry.
She's the provocative one. That's all. Go ahead.
I do think this is, you go to the RSA conference at Black Hat and there are all these vendors and they all claim to solve all the problems and they're stopping all attacks and, just buy one more thing and then you'll be secure. I am just jazzed for the potential for AI and other technologies to start holding some of these vendors accountable to these promises that they're making, and really, help practitioners understand which of these investments matter, which don't, which are snake oil and which are real. So I won't, throw shade to any particular vendor, but the whole space in general, I think it's needs to be held accountable and really evaluated for ROI on these security investments.
Well, so I was the senior VP of AI of the company that Bess, mentioned before my current job. But I will add one thing, compliance, right? Pragmatic advice to people here. Compliance is, in the AI area is very fuzzy. Like, what do you mean by in compliance? Take OpenAI, Anthropic, OpenAI really changed the world, right? I give them tremendous amount of the credit. So far, they don't tell you a lot of details. One of the details they never tell you is what data they are using to train. Is the data collection they have to train the large language model in compliance? And I'm pretty sure, whether yes or no, for sure it's very, sort of in the gray area. And no one even knows, right? How can you tell? So I would say in compliance is a fuzzy. We live in a new era. We're at the beginning of a new era. We're trying to figure that out. So there's no negativity of what I just said. Without some fuzziness, they wouldn't have, leapfrog to begin with. So I love them. But on the other hand, that there's a fuzziness in the compliance. The one thing I would say is, this is my company. We are a Fortune 500 company. My chief information officer kept reminding me as well, hey, Howie, you do a lot of the AI innovations, but let's make sure the compliance, all that kind of thing. But guess what? At the end of the day, there's a lot of judgment we have to make, right? For instance, what kind of things? Of course, ChatGPT, that's easy, whether we can have a policy. But then there are so many other tools like coding agents, right? Cursor, Augment, of the world. What kind of things can you send to them? Not, right? They said they have, maybe enterprise version of it. How much is it validated or not? There's a lot of the business judgment that you cannot just live in the stone age for some time until all the compliance things figure out. You are going to lag behind. You have to take some judgment, right? And that's a very pragmatic thing. There's no like a black and white compliance in welcome to the new AI age.
All right, so I want to shift a little bit more. We're running out of time. We haven't talked about data protection enough. There was a report last week that actually caught my eye. CrowdStrike found that 79% of intrusions now don't involve malware at all. And furthermore, they also found that voice phishing has overtaken traditional phishing when it comes to that first access to a company's data. I'm curious, what trends are you guys seeing in terms of AI impacting security systems, and what are you most worried about?
Yeah. Well, in the enterprise, Deep Instinct, we focus on data security, and our numbers are consistent with CrowdStrike. What we see is that 72% of the attacks that are coming now are first-time, unknown type attacks. And those make up a variety of things. Some of them are cyber attacks. Some of them are social engineered attacks. The social engineered attacks right now are the most challenging one. And it's requiring a level of training and awareness in an organization. In fact, another area where I think AI tools are going to help organizations in terms of the training and awareness of how to protect against cyber and or malware or malicious intent attacks. But social engineering, and again, using voice as well as one example, is really becoming a challenge. And that's the weakest link. We could put all the technology, all the AI technology in place, but it is the human factor, and we're here at HumanX, it is the human factor that's going to have to intersect with this AI, particularly on some of these types of attacks.
Yeah, so my company sells cyber insurance to enterprises. So we see firsthand as we work through customer incidents and handle their claims against their insurance policies. What happened, how did it happen, and how do these companies recover from these attacks? And we too are seeing that a lot of attacks are beginning with social engineered, phishing campaigns, voice campaigns, et cetera. And that won't go away, as long as there are people working at companies and people have access to data and systems. What we talk with our customers a lot about is making sure that those attacks are going to happen. They're going to keep happening, but making sure our customers understand how to and are resilient to those types of attacks. So, if an employee clicks the link in the phishing attack, making sure they have only as much network access as is really required to their job, to prevent sort of access from spreading from there. And if a ransomware attack does occur on the heels of that, making sure that companies have all of the protocols and systems in place to respond really quickly and effectively to those incidents once they happen. So I think in some ways, this sort of overall resilience to the human factor just requires acknowledgement that this isn't going away, and we're not going to be able to automatically detect all phishing attacks 100% all of the time. We have to make sure we're resilient to them occurring.
You mentioned the deepfake voice, right? We're talking about AI fighting against AI. The bad side of the AI is actually more and more powerful. Just not too many years ago, it would take hours and hours of Bess, sort of conversation for people to train a model to mimic Bess voice. As of last year, I don't even know about today, but as of last year, it would only take 6 seconds of your voice to do the deepfake. So it's kind of the battle is on. So back to this data protection, right? On the one hand, again, this double-edged sword. If we are sort of too much rigor, rigid stuff, around the data protection in an unnecessary way, that's a way to slow down the innovation or deployment of AI, right? But on the other hand, we all need to pay attention. There are many forms of the data protection. One form, I give you an example. Just last night, I met the CEO of the Stack Overflow. So when ChatGPT came out, because, presumably OpenAI crawled their website. So a lot of people felt like, well, I don't really need to sort of go to Stack Overflow anymore. That hurt them, right? Now, of course, they protected the data. Presumably they negotiated some deal so that things are being done in a more proper way. So overall, it's a win-win for everyone. So I think that's, importance of the data protection.
All right, we're kind of running out of time. So just one last question. How have you seen generative AI impact your various areas? And assuming the agents really are coming, tell the audience about how you expect agentic AI to impact security.
Yeah. Well, from my standpoint, I think it's going to affect it in a way that companies are going to have to invest on the protection side of things. Again, I agree with Howie. We have to embrace it, but on the protection side, there's going to have to be an investment. It's not for the CISOs, and I speak with them weekly. It's not good enough to say that we're going to pull something out, put something in. AI means you're going to have to invest on your cyber stack even more so going forward.
I think all of that's true. And I think the lens that matters is money. always at the end of the day. How much investment we're putting into businesses to protect against these new threats will depend on the risk, and all of that is defined by the stakes and the money to be lost.
Well, Len is a legend in the security industry, right? He saw through so many, transformation in the security technology. I think I agree with Len that for this AI transformation age, it takes learning, investment. But I would say it's a little bit more than that. It's the mindset. It's the culture shift, right? You need to change the organization. You need to change the culture quite differently so that you can survive and thrive in this AI era.
Perfect. Let's end it there. Thank you so much.